Eric's face twisted with rage, the coffee mug flying towards me, and I knew I had to try. I pressed the call button and held my breath as it rang. On the third ring, CLA's familiar voice came through. "Lena, is everything okay?" At the sound of her voice, so full of concern even after all this time, I broke down. Through my tears, I recounted everything: the fight with Eric, the coffee mug, my hasty escape. CLA listened without interrupting, only making soft sounds of sympathy and outrage. When I finished, there was a moment of silence. Then CLA said, "Oh, Lena, I'm so sorry you've been going through this, but I'm so proud of you for leaving. You did the right thing." Her words were like a balm to my battered soul. For so long, I doubted my own perceptions, my own feelings. To have someone validate my experience, to tell me I'd done the right thing, was more powerful than I could have imagined. As we talked, a plan began to form. CLA knew a lawyer who specialized in helping women escape abusive situations. She offered to set up a meeting for the next day. In the meantime, she insisted I come stay with her. "But what about your family?" I asked, knowing she had 2 young kids. "I don't want to impose." "Don't be ridiculous," CLA said firmly. "Your family too. We have a guest room, and the kids will be thrilled to see their Aunt Lena." By the time the call ended, I had more than just a shoulder to cry on. I had a lifeline. As I hung up, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I wasn't alone in this. I had support, and for the first time in a long time, I had hope. I finished my coffee, left a generous tip for the waitress, and headed back to my car. As I punched CLA's address into my GPS, I felt a mix of emotions: fear, sadness, but also a growing sense of excitement. This wasn't the end of my story, it was a new beginning. As I pulled up to CLA's house, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. The modest 2-story home with its neatly trimmed lawn and cheerful flower beds was so different from the cold, modern house I'd shared with Eric. For a moment, I sat in the car, gathering my courage. What if CLA had changed her mind? What if her husband, Tom, didn't want me there? But before I could spiral further, the front door flew open and CLA came rushing out. She looked exactly as I remembered, curly red hair flying everywhere, green eyes full of warmth. Without hesitation, she pulled me into a tight hug. "Oh, Lena," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so glad you're here." As we embraced, I felt something inside me crack. All the fear, anger, and sadness I'd been holding back came flooding out. I sobbed into CLA's shoulder, years of pent-up emotions finally finding release. CLA just held me, rubbing soothing circles on my back. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe now. We've got you." When I finally pulled back, wiping my eyes, I saw Tom standing in the doorway. He gave me a gentle smile and a nod. "Welcome, Lena," he said simply. "Come on in. I've got some coffee brewing." Inside, the house was warm and inviting, filled with the controlled chaos that comes with having young children. Toys were scattered across the living room floor, and colorful artwork adorned the walls. It was so different from the stark perfection Eric had always insisted on maintaining. As we settled in the kitchen with steaming mugs of coffee, CLA's kids, Emma and Jack, peeked around the corner. Emma, who was 7, remembered me from previous visits and ran over for a hug. 4-year-old Jack was shy, hiding behind his sister. "Aunt Lena," Emma exclaimed, "are you going to stay with us? Can we have a sleepover in the guest room?" I laughed, surprised by how good it felt. "Not tonight, sweetie, but maybe another time, okay?" As Tom ushered the kids out to give us some privacy, I turned to CLA. "Thank you," I said, my voice cracking. "I don't know what I would have done without you." CLA reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "That's what friends are for. Now, let's figure out our next steps." Over the next few hours, CLA and I talked through everything. She listened without judgment as I shared more details about my relationship with Eric, how things had deteriorated over the years, and how I'd lost myself in the process. "I feel so stupid," I confessed, staring into my coffee mug. "I should have left years ago. How did I let it get this bad?" CLA shook her head firmly. "No, Lena, you're not stupid. Abusers are masters at manipulation. They break you down so slowly that you don't even realize it's happening. The important thing is that you've left now. As we talked, CLA helped me start to form a plan. She'd already set up an appointment with her lawyer friend, Sarah, for the next morning. Sarah specializes in cases like yours, CLA explained. She'll help you navigate the legal side of things and make sure you're protected. The idea of divorce was terrifying but also liberating. For so long, I'd been trapped in a cycle of hope and disappointment, always believing that things would get better. Now, I was finally ready to break free. What about work? I asked, suddenly remembering the job I'd left behind. I'd been working as a part-time librarian, a job Eric had deemed suitable for me after I'd given up my dreams of being a writer. CLA's eyes lit up. Actually, I might have an idea about that. Remember my cousin Megan? She runs that little bookstore downtown, the Cozy Corner. She mentioned the other day that she's looking for help. It's not much, but it could be a start. The thought of working in a bookstore, surrounded by stories and the smell of paper and ink, made my heart leap. It was a far cry from the corporate world Eric had always pushed me towards, but it felt right. As the evening wore on, we started making lists, things I needed to do, people I needed to contact, items I needed to buy. It was overwhelming, but having a plan made me feel more in control than I had in years. Oh! CLA exclaimed suddenly. I almost forgot. I have something for you. She disappeared into another room and came back with a small gift bag. Inside was a new cell phone. I picked it up this afternoon, she explained. It's a prepaid phone, so Eric can't track it or access the records. You should use this from now on, just to be safe. I stared at the phone, a lump forming in my throat. It was such a small thing, but it represented another step towards freedom. Thank you, I whispered, unable to find words to express my gratitude. As we wrapped up our planning session, CLA insisted I take her guest room for the night. You need a safe place to rest, she said firmly. We can go to your hotel tomorrow to check out and get your things. That night, as I lay in the unfamiliar bed, listening to the quiet sounds of a happy family home, I found myself thinking about Eric. By now, he would have realized I was gone. Would he be worried? Angry? Would he even care? I thought about Marie showing up at Eric's house, expecting to get my credit card. The thought of their shock and confusion gave me a small, guilty thrill. But then I remembered Eric's rage, the flying coffee mug, and my resolve hardened. As I drifted off to sleep, I found myself thinking about the future.